Do I have to say it? Do I have to? Oh, okay. HAZUKASHII DESU! Fine, there, I said it. Okay, Olivia is the first, well, only dancer you recruit in the game. And because of this, her main usefulness is not in terms of stats. But I'm going to talk about her stats anyway. Olivia's starting stats are very, very low. And so she's extremely fragile, she'll die to a faint breeze, and even though, like the dancers from Fire Emblem 4 and 5, she can actually fight. Oh, also 3 and 12. She can actually use swords, but early on at least, she's pretty terrible at it. You kind of want to keep her out of combat, and you don't want to be actually initiating attacks with her if you can help it, because that's a massive waste of her turn, and yeah, seriously, just don't do that while she's low-leveled, she will die. But she's got some pretty decent growth rates though, very, very high growth in skill, speed, and luck, and the main interesting thing about her is that she doesn't have a negative strength cap. You'd think that she would, but she actually doesn't. That 0 there is a pretty big deal, because it means that she won't actually hit less hard than a lot of other characters. Of course, some of the other Myrmidons do have positive strength caps, but Olivia at least doesn't have a negative one, which is kind of one you would expect. She does, however, have negative caps in both defense and resistance, and the growths in those areas are very low, so she's extremely fragile. Also, her HP is... yeah, her HP is pretty weak as well. Overall, though, her cap modifiers, while they aren't that bad negatively, they're not too fantastic positively, only +1 to both skill and speed, so her caps are a bit more balanced. However, something about Olivia's growth rates here, I'm showing her with the dancer class growths. Her growths will actually be a lot higher in any other class, so if you want to actually make it so Olivia can hold her own in battle, and she can actually be pretty good in battle, but provided that you train her in other classes before switching her back to dancer, because in other classes her growths will be much higher, so it's much more beneficial if you want to actually make her better at combat to use a second seal to reclass her to something different. Maybe learn some better combat skills, and she'll definitely have a better strength growth regardless of what class she switches to. Now, also, regarding Dancer, it's considered a special class, so it has a maximum level of 30 instead of 20, if I remember right. I'm pretty sure it does. Of course it has no promotion, but it doesn't really need one. Its main focus is not really on combat. It will, however, end up with very, very high skill and speed, so she is kind of like a mini sword master when fully trained up as a dancer. Not as good at combat as an actual sword master, but at least she'll be able to serve a utility role as well, so... But that's once you actually train her up. Before then, she's very weak. Thankfully, she gains experience every time she dances, so that will certainly help. Speaking of which, finally time to get onto the elephant in the living room. The real reason why you want to use Olivia is her dancing abilities. Olivia also is the only character in the entire game who's able to do this, so if you're playing classic mode and you lose her, you may want to restart the chapter, because you'll never get another character who can do what she can do. By dancing for an ally, Olivia will refresh their movement, enabling them to act again that turn. This is amazingly useful in a lot of circumstances. Now, there's been a lot of controversy in the Fire Emblem fandom over dancers, and just how worth it is to bring one. The argument against them is, while they can refresh the movement of one ally, it costs a deployment slot to actually use one, and you could have at least used that deployment slot on another combat unit, and well, isn't having two combat units the same thing as moving the same combat unit twice? In some ways, not really. There are a lot of tactics in this game that really benefit from being able to move the same character twice, especially involving staff users. Being able to rescue staff 2 characters in one turn, being able to warp staff 2 characters in one turn. I actually forget if the warp staff even exists in this game, but I hope I got that right. Or being able to just heal 2 characters in one turn. Even then, there are some other characters who you really wish would be able to, do 2 things in one turn, and with a dancer, you can actually do that. Unfortunately, dancing here isn't quite as good as it was in Fire Emblem 4 and in Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, where you could potentially affect all adjacent allies, not just one. It's back down to one, but it's still pretty useful for what it is, so Olivia's definitely recommended. She's more of a utility character, but like I said, if you train her up in other classes, she can actually fight at least somewhat okay-ish. And yes, I did say other classes. Olivia actually does have other class options that she can reclass to. Remember though, that unlike in Fire Emblem 4, dancing is not a skill, it's actually inherent in the dancer class. So if she reclasses to something else, she will not be able to use her dancing abilities. So it's probably best to do this in skirmishes, or if you've got the DLC, grinding in DLC, rather than doing it during the main game, because then you're robbing yourself of a dancer, and that's not really all that good. But her other classes can be very useful. She doesn't have many class options, but the few options she has are very, very good. The first is the Myrmidon class branch. This comes with the Vantage and Evade plus 10 skills, which are actually pretty decent. Vantage is, okay. Olivia with a low defense will get down to half HP pretty easily, but you generally don't want her to get down that low, so that's a bit of a worry if it does get that far. From there, she can promote to either Swordmaster or Assassin. Both give her skills that will help her greatly in the Dancer class in terms of holding her own in battle. Swordmaster will learn Astra, enabling her to strike 5 times in one round, always useful, and Swordfair, also useful because dancers can only wield swords, so she'll have a permanent +5 strength boost, basically, out of that skill. Assassin, though, is where things get really entertaining. Yes, you can have a dancer with the ability to instant kill things. And believe me, it's absolutely hilarious seeing Olivia yell, "Don't look at me, I'm so embarrassed," while she instant deaths things. And with her high skill, she'll actually have a pretty good chance of pulling it off, so, kind of mitigates her low strength in the dancer class, and yeah, the sheer hilarity factor of having a dancer who can just instant kill things. What is it with shy characters and having the power to destroy everything? It must be an inherent trait or something. The other skill, Pass, is actually also pretty useful for dancing because it'll enable Olivia to move past spaces occupied by enemies, which means she'll be able to, well, it'll mean that no enemy will be able to get in the way of her dancing. This means that if you desperately need her to get to an ally in order to dance for them, then you don't need to worry about enemies blocking the way, so that can really help. That, and it helps if you're using her in combat as well. Her other class option is Pegasus Knight, and this is also a very good class branch. It helps her naturally high skill and speed, and for the most part, she'll be stuck with a low lance rank for a while, but the skills from this class, as is for anyone who has the Pegasus Knight class tree, are really amazing. Relief as a Pegasus Knight, it's okay, but Olivia's a bit too frail to make good use of it. As a Falcon Knight, Olivia will learn Rally Speed and Lancefair. Lancefair is not all that great. I'd prefer Swordfair on her. But I guess it's okay for what it is. The real one you're probably wanting is Dark Flyer. Dark Flyer gives her access to movement +1, though Olivia's probably better off dancing than rallying. I meant the rally movement +1, the skill rally movement. But that skill can be quite good. On turns where you don't actually need Olivia to dance, you can have her support still by giving +1 movement to all allies within range. And rally movement is certainly one of the best of the rally skills in the game, so definitely worthwhile. But of course, the one you're really looking for is Gale Force. Yes, Olivia does have access to this ridiculously good skill, and so if you're using her in combat, it'll basically enable her to take down an enemy and then still be able to dance for someone. Gale Force is doubly useful for Olivia, really, because pretty much the exact reason I said. It means that if you do raise her to be more of a combat unit, you won't basically sacrifice on her dancing ability. She can still fight something and then dance in the same turn. Or, alternatively, fight 2 things in the same turn. So, Gale Force is always a good skill no matter who has it. Speaking of skills though, the Dancer class itself has 2 skills associated with it, and these skills are entirely exclusive to Olivia and her children. Well, one of them is. The first one is Luck +4. It's actually a pretty good boost for one of these static, just stat boosting skills. Luck is exactly the most beneficial stat in the game, but an extra few points does kind of help, and it does mean minus 4% to the enemy's critical rate, which could save someone's life. Now, this skill is completely exclusive to Dancer, like I said, but Olivia's child can inherit this, although it's best that you inherit Gale Force to them if you're actually passing something down, because really, you really want to pass down Gale Force if you have the option, and Olivia does have the option. But if for some reason you don't want to be too broken, then this skill's a decent one to pass down only because there's no other way to get it. The other skill, though, is really unique. Special Dance. And no, fans of previous Fire Emblem games, it doesn't mean what you think it means. For those of you who don't know, Special Dance is kind of a recurring gag in the series as a euphemism for, well, yeah. Go read the dancer supports from Fire Emblem 6 or Fire Emblem 12. Special Dance means that whoever Olivia dances for gets +2 to all of their main stats, except movement. It's kind of like a light version of Rally Spectrum, but it means that Olivia's even more useful as a supporter than normal, because not only will she be refreshing the movement of an ally, she'll also be giving them a slight stat buff. So that's actually always useful. There's literally no reason not to have this skill on Olivia while she's a dancer, and that's the thing. While she's a dancer. Because like Beastbane for Targwell and Wormsbane for Manaketes, this skill is completely useless in any class other than Dancer, and for this reason, it is impossible for this skill to ever be inherited by second generation characters. Reason being, Olivia is the only dancer in the game, so if any of her children did inherit it, they would never actually be able to use it. The funny thing is, there is actually unused data for a dance skill in this game, which implies that maybe dancing could have worked for other classes if you had a skill equipped, and Olivia could have passed down the ability to dance to her children, but they ultimately decided against it. The Fire Emblem series really doesn't want you to have 2 dancers at any one time, because if that did happen, then the 2 dancers could instantly, they could just repeatedly dance for each other and instantly grind to their maximum level. Although, really, they could just make it so that dancing for another dance doesn't give you experience. I mean, that'd be a good way to fix it. That's also the reason why there are no legacy characters who are dancers, so yeah. But at first I actually thought this skill could be inherited, which was kind of funny because it would be completely useless, but thankfully it can't be. So you don't need to worry about Olivia's children potentially inheriting a useless skill. So again, no need to worry about that. But while Olivia is a dancer, definitely a good skill for her to have. So overall, Olivia is, yeah, very useful mostly for her dancing ability, but she can be useful in combat if you take the time to train her up. Now, as for voice acting trivia, remember how I said with Anna that the next character we'd be getting was also voiced by the person who voices Anna, Karen Strassman? Yes, Olivia is voiced by her too. And so I'll share a few other roles that Karen Strassman has played that are kind of interesting. Juliana Everhart in Valkyria Chronicles 2, Fi in Virtue's Last Reward, Poison in Street Fighter, Rouge the Bat currently in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, and many, many, many other games, as well as additional voices in a lot of games. So, yeah, she's very prolific in the video game industry. But there's one more very, very infamous thing about Olivia that I have to cover. And forgive me if this takes a while, because there's some very, very specific mechanics involved in this, and you really, really have to do a lot of work to actually pull this off. Olivia is actually one of Chrom's potential love interests. Hang on a minute, what? I hear you say. Olivia joins in the chapter that Chrom's forced to marry someone. How can Chrom marry her when, before they even have a chance to support, he's forced to marry someone? That doesn't even make sense, right? I pretty much agree, but it actually can happen. You need to follow a very, very specific series of steps in order to do this. Firstly, Chrom must not have even a C support with any of his other love interests. And by that I mean initiated a C support. Having enough support points for a C is fine, but as long as you haven't initiated the conversation. If you have initiated a C support, then the only way to actually make Chrom marry Olivia is to immediately marry off that character who has a C support with Chrom to someone else. Otherwise, Chrom cannot marry Olivia under any circumstances. All of his potential love interests have to be either not really dead, because female characters don't die in this game, so incapacitated, married, or never supported with, in order for this to work. Now, when that condition is satisfied, Chrom also needs to gain at least 18 support points with Olivia during Chapter 11 itself. Now, all you need to know for this is fighting an enemy while paired up, or well, more with Olivia as the support unit, but it's easiest to do this if you pair them up. Fighting an enemy while paired up is 6 points, and having Olivia dance for Chrom is 2 points. So you either have to have Olivia dance for him 9 times, or fight at least 3 enemies together while paired up. The second option is much easier, I find. So yeah, provided that you have no C supports between Chrom and any of his eligible love interests, and if you do have any C supports, make sure you immediately marry that person off to someone else. After you do that, then pair up Chrom with Olivia and have them fight at least 3 enemies together, and then by the end of the chapter, Chrom should automatically marry Olivia. Now, unlike anyone else who automatically marries Chrom based on support points, you won't actually notice this until the next chapter, until before chapter 12. Olivia doesn't get a post-chapter confession scene with Chrom like most of the others do, so you won't actually realize this until later. But once you do get to chapter 12, you should know immediately that Chrom has been paired with Olivia. If you see no confession scene at the end of chapter 11, then that can only mean one of 2 things. Either Chrom has successfully been paired with Olivia, or, well, the other option, which I'll be discussing later. And here's something I find really annoying about this pairing. If you do manage to do this, and you do, pull this off, so anyone who automatically marries Chrom as per Chapter 11's cutoff points immediately gets bumped up to an S-rank support with him, which makes sense. Wait a minute though, Olivia never even supported with Chrom. She goes from nothing straight to S. What does that mean? Well, it means you don't get any support conversations whatsoever. No build-up, no story, absolutely no plot development to this relationship at all. And that's kind of why I'm not a big fan of this pairing. This pairing really sacrifices story for gameplay. I'll talk about it gameplay-wise in a minute, but story-wise, you're basically making the main character have a love interest who, well, their romance has absolutely no development at all. And here's why this annoys me. Chrom and Olivia do in fact have support conversations coded into the game. They have a full script for C, B, A, and S. And you can see these. After you clear the game with Chrom married to Olivia, you can view them in the support library, but you can't see them during the game itself. This to me just feels so weird. The fact that the one you married the main character to, you don't even get to see their relationship develop until after you've beaten the game. And the real reason why this annoys me is because, plot-wise, Olivia joined at the end of Chapter 10. If they had treated her like Long Ku, if they had made her in your party at the end of Chapter 10, you could have grinded Chrom and Olivia's supports in Risen skirmishes, and you could have seen their support conversations. But, unfortunately, they had to make her join in the next chapter for the sake of giving you the dancing tutorial then, and thus, you don't get to see their supports at all, so no supports for you. Which, in the end, results in something that a certain fan artist summed up perfectly well. That's pretty much how you sum up this pairing. But let's not dwell on that and talk about this pairing gameplay-wise. And this is probably partly why I'm so annoyed about how much this gets shafted in terms of story, because this pairing is actually very, very, very good. In fact, to me, well, most people consider this one of the best, if not the best, pairings for Chrom gameplay-wise. Personally, I think Sumiya might be roughly equal to it, but I still think definitely this and Sumiya are by far head and shoulders above everything else. These are the two best pairings for Chrom, definitely. And the main benefit of Olivia is she gives the best strength modifier to Chrom's children. I know, it seems so weird for a shy dancer to give the best strength modifier in the game, and, you know, not people like Sully or even, you know, Sumiya, who's a physical class, but no, Olivia gives the best possible defense modifier to Chrom's children. This is mostly because I think all of Chrom's other love interests have negative strength modifiers, and Olivia just has a neutral one. But also this one doesn't sacrifice too much on skill and speed. Its skill and speed aren't as high as in other pairings, mainly Sumiya, but +3 is still pretty decent, and +2 luck is decent as well. And -1 defense is, like I mentioned with Sully, actually the best, the best defense modifier Chrom's children can get outside of, well, the terrible option. So it's kind of funny, but -1 is actually the best Chrom's children can get. -1 resistance, though, is in fact the lowest resistance modifier Chrom's children will have, so that is a bit of a weakness of this pairing, but it's only a very minor one. Now, the strength cap is one thing, but the other benefit from this pairing is the classes that it passes down. Olivia is the only one out of Chrom's love interests, the Avatar excluded, because it's unfair to compare them to anyone else, because they pass down everything. She's the only one of Chrom's love interests who passes down both the Swordmaster and Pegasus Knight class branches. So, Chrom's children get Gale Force, but they also get Astra and Lethality. Now, this is really, really useful for, well, I mean, yeah, Chrom's main child is going to have Lethality, which is pretty awesome. I'm pretty sure, with Sully that she can get Lethality as well, but, this pairing's probably better stat-wise than Sully is, and Lethality actually helps out on, well, I'll talk about that later. This pairing also passes down some pretty good skills to Olivia's child. He'll inherit the Cavalier, Paladin, and Great Knight classes, and also Archer and Sniper, though they're not all that important. But the main benefit is, Olivia's child, being male, will inherit Rightful King from Chrom, giving it +10% to the activation rate of all activation rate-based skills. Now, unlike Maribel's son, Olivia's son is probably the best user of Rightful King out of any of Chrom's children. Because with this, they get access to, well, okay, let me just count off the number of things they get access to. From Great Knight, they have Rightful King Luna, which is pretty amazing. Rightful King Aegis from Paladin, which is decent defensively, though no Pavis makes it a bit less useful defensively, but still pretty decent. Rightful King Astra, so an extra 10% chance of attacking 5 times in one move. And this is especially useful because Astra is a skill over 2 activation chance and not a skill activation chance, so 10% is actually a really big deal. But the main one here is Rightful King Lethality. This is probably a major benefit of the Chrom and Olivia pairing. +10% to a chance of instant killing any enemy, including bosses, apart from 2. There are only 2 bosses in this game who are immune to instant death, and so this is just insane. I mean, normally Lethality's highest possible activation chance is only around 22%-ish, so an extra 10% is a huge deal, an extra 10% chance of instant death. Rightful King Lethality is just incredible, and definitely a major benefit of the Chrom and Olivia pairing, so you definitely want to get Olivia's son Lethality, because one of the best skills to abuse with Rightful King. So, overall, Chrom and Olivia is definitely one of Chrom's best pairings stat-wise by far. Though, a lot of people think that this is definitely the uncontested most optimal pairing for Chrom. It does have some weaknesses that people are just kind of, they don't really realise, so I'll talk about a few of them. Firstly, compared to Sumiya, this passes down less classes, and it doesn't pass down any magic-using classes, so Chrom's children will be less versatile than they would be in other pairings. Of course, it really depends on your point of view. They'll be better at actual physical combat, so versatility might not matter to you in that case. It's almost impossible to achieve without actually knowing about it in advance, so I wouldn't recommend this pairing to first-time players, because the chance of a first-time player actually being able to pull this off without the chances of a person playing blind being able to pull this off are next to none, so yeah, you really need to plan for this in advance in order to actually do it. But the main disadvantage that this pairing has, and it's something that a lot of people overlook, is Olivia's base stats. Now, bear with me for a moment. So, the stats that children have starting off depend on what stats the parents have at the time you recruit the child. The higher the parent stats, the higher the starting stats of the children. Now, if the parents are both promoted and decently leveled, the children can come with absurdly high base stats for unpromoted characters. I mean, they can even come with all of their stats maxed if you're really overleveled. So, base stats are a pretty huge deal with the children, and it's often a reason why they're so powerful. You don't really need to train them that much, you can pretty much just use them right away, because they often have stats on par with promoted characters as an unpromoted class, provided their parent stats were high enough. Now, this is where there's a major weakness in the Chrom and Olivia pairing, because by the time Olivia joins, there aren't very many chapters before you actually... well, before... spoilers happens. Now, all of Chrom's other potential wives, you are very capable of getting promoted by the time Chrom's child joins. Olivia, well, one, she has no promotion, but two, if you're not specifically grinding her, and you'd have to grind her very excessively, Olivia will still have very, very low stats by the time Chrom's children join, and that means that Chrom's children will end up with very low stats to start off with, compared to other Chrom pairings. So, this is more of an S-type pairing. Chrom's children will end up amazing. They will have a bit of a rough start due to Olivia's abysmal starting stats, so bear that in mind. This mostly applies to if you're doing a no grinding run, because if you are, then... I mean, if you are grinding, you may want to do some pretty serious grinding on Olivia if you're doing this pairing. But many hardcore players of this game like to do no grinding runs, and on those, while Chrom and Olivia does pass some of the most optimal combinations of caps and classes and skills, it does not give the most optimal starting stats, so they will be at a bit of a disadvantage early on. That being said though, this is still an amazing pairing. Probably, in my opinion, tied with Sumiya for the best, but a lot of other people seem to think this is better. Really depends on your personal preference, but this is still amazing. Just good luck actually pulling it off.